Good afternoon, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the afternoon of Friday, August 18th, 2023, with a special commentary today. And the commentary is on the summit going on in Camp David between the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. Here was a golden opportunity for President Biden to look good, and the Americans to look good. But Mr. Biden, like he did in Afghanistan, has squandered the opportunity and is making America look bad. And why is it? Well, he made the small mistake of inviting Japan and South Korea together with the United States with an armistice still in place in the Korean Peninsula. And issues that those two countries, Korea North and its ally and client, China, have issues. Let me explain, Americans. Japan invaded both China and Korea. They held Korea from 1910 to 1945. That's 35 years. Okay? And they committed a lot of atrocities in the Korean Peninsula, let alone in the other parts of French Indochina too. But the Korean Peninsula, yeah. And they invaded Manchuria 31, and then they invaded China proper in 37 and controlled at least a quarter of China from 37 to 45. And the Japanese were not nice. The only thing nice they had to say was Asia for the Asians, meaning themselves. Okay? That's how greedy the Japanese were under the Imperial Army. And Mr. Hirohito, who didn't want to care, he just wanted to reign. He didn't care what else went on in the world at the time. Excuse me. So what I'm saying, it's a missed opportunity by President Biden is he should know that he still has that armistice that's hanging around his neck. It's also hanging around South Korea's neck, and to a certain extent hanging around Japan. And why Japan? Because at the time of the Korean War, 50 to 53, when the Korean War started in 1950, Japan was still under the occupation of the United States. At the time, Emperor MacArthur, remember? And then when MacArthur got changed and he became the head of the UN forces in 1950, till he got fired in 1951 by President Give Him Hell Harry! Yeah. Well, it caused a disaster because he went over there and went to the Yalu River and wanted to cross the Yalu River and thus invited Communist China with Mao Zedong and cohorts into the Korean War alongside the Soviet Union, who was aiding Kim at the time. Kim Jong-un, or not Kim Jong-un, but his father, grandfather, I mean, Kim Il-sung. Okay? Gotta get these Kims right. Anyway, and therefore, you had both China and Korea in the 1950s on the same side, China and Soviet Union on the same side of Korea, North Korea, that is, Kim Il-sung. And they took the United States almost back to the Pusan perimeter, and they finally settled at the Kansas line and made that the official line of demarcation on July 27, 1953, 70 years ago. Then in the 1960s, there was a little disagreement between the Soviets and the Communists, so Mao Zedong took over ownership of North Korea, and from that time forward became the ally to North Korea. "Jump, boy, how high do you want to go?" said Mr. Sung, Kim Il-sung. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. But China and the North Koreans, and to a certain extent the South Koreans, because this must be a very odd and very uncomfortable position for the president of South Korea and the prime minister of Japan to be sitting there side by side alongside the occupation force that both had, America. See what I mean? Because of the atrocities committed by the Japanese to both the Chinese and the Koreans. And those were serious atrocities that the Japanese committed in World War II. Because they were fighting a total war. And that's the problem with a total war, people. If you lose, oh boy, and you're still around, because a total war, you should be wiped out. Okay? But the thing that President Biden, before he did this Camp David, he should have gone to both sides and says, "Okay, guys, I know it's going to be a hot potato, and you guys don't want to sit next door to each other because it affects your nations more often than the Americans understand. But what you need to do is, we can do this here as a standard agreement. We, the representative of the three nations, hereby sign this agreement and open it up to the rest of the world that we are not responsible for the atrocities committed by our ancestors. America for dropping the bomb on Japan, the Japanese for the atrocities in the Koreans, and the Koreans to say that you don't want war anywhere because you South Koreans, you know the war because it was fought mostly in your territory between 50 and 53. And you still have the war open. The Korean War hasn't ended, people. It's just, I won't shoot you today. And the rate that Mr. Biden's going, the Chinese and the North Koreans are saying, "But I'll shoot you tomorrow. I got case to shoot you." Yeah. And the South Koreans are saying, "Do we have to be in bed with the Japanese? Really? Oh boy. See what I mean? But if you had that declaration of three head of states of this planet and opening it up to other heads of state, would you sign off to this? That way we don't have any more problems. And make it a UN and take it up to the UN and say, "We have signed this declaration. We are not responsible for the atrocities of our ancestors. We are only responsible for here what we do going forward in our respect." Do you understand me, Americans, Koreans, Japanese, Chinese, and North Koreans, and Russians, and the rest of the world? This is what we had to do, and we set up our civilization in my adopted planet after our ancestors blew the hell out of themselves and 14 billion souls. This is your favorite alien saying, "You guys are more stupid than I thought. Good day."